I know most of you guys were cheering for Alex, but I still have to say it was very nice. Thank you so much for the great crowd tonight.
When Alex Eala was playing, tickets reached $325 and sold out in less than 30 minutes. And that was before the huge markups on the resale market. Thousands of fans were showing up for one reason: Alex Eala. Then Belinda Bencic handed her a 6-0 second set, and almost overnight, everything changed. Quarterfinal tickets that resellers expected to explode in value suddenly went the other way. $157 dropped to $98, then crashed to just $84. Let's break down how a 21-year-old player became powerful enough to move an entire tennis market, and what happened the moment she was gone.
Honestly, I hate to play against lefties. I mean, I wish I was a lefty too.
Rewind 5 days. Carl Hale, tournament director of the National Bank Open, was staring at a scheduling problem most tournaments never have to deal with. Alexandra Eala, 21 years old, fresh off becoming the first Filipina to win a WTA title at the Mubadala DC Open, freshly ranked world number 20, had generated over 5,000 preliminary ticket requests before her opening match time was even confirmed.
I got 180 for the first time in my life.
All right.
66 years. I will enjoy watching her.
Hale's original plan had her on the grandstand court. Capacity, 2,800, not enough. On August 4th, he moved her to center court. Capacity, 10,077. The next day when the schedule dropped, those seats sold out in 30 minutes. But this was not just fandom, it was a market signal. If ticket brokers read it exactly the way you'd expect. Secondary market vendors, the resellers working through platforms like StubHub and SeatGeek, watched that 30-minute sellout and drew one conclusion: Eala was going deep. She'd arrived in Toronto on a 7-match winning streak, 5 of those wins in Washington, D.C., 2 more already banked in Toronto, including a 3-set survival over Taylor Townsend just to reach the round of 16. The math looked obvious. Eala keeps winning. She meets world number 4 Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals, and whoever's holding those quarterfinal tickets is sitting on gold. So the brokers moved. They bought up blocks of inventory, priced it at speculative markups, and waited for the payoff. They weren't wrong about the demand. They were wrong about who was standing in the way. Belinda Bencic, 29 years old, the 12th seed, a Tokyo 2020 Olympic gold medalist, and 2015 Canadian Open champion, had her own quiet story running underneath.
Belinda Bencic.
Bencic does not like playing left-handers. She said so herself. But going into this match, she'd beaten left-handed opponents 10 straight times since 2024. Something about her timing, her ability to switch things up. Even she cannot fully explain it. And that streak was about to matter a lot more than anyone in the resale market had accounted for. The round of 16 match lasted 73 minutes. Bencic won 6-4, 6-0. She converted 6 of 10 break points. Her first serve points won sat at 72%. Eala's first serve percentage in the second set collapsed to 46. It was not close, and it was not a fluke. It was a systematic dismantling, and it happened in front of a stadium that was overwhelmingly audibly rooting for the other player. Bencic addressed that crowd directly afterward. She knew most of them had come for Eala, and she thanked them anyway for the atmosphere. Later, she went even further, saying she actually preferred an engaged pro-opponent crowd over a quiet, disinterested one, comparing it to playing Serena Williams or Fed Cup ties against France and Brazil. Online, fans started calling her Zen Bencic or Zencic for how relaxed she looked mid-match, bopping her head to the courtside music while dismantling the tournament's biggest commercial draw in straight sets. That composure is the exact opposite of what was happening in the resale market that same night. And here's where the numbers turn against the brokers. The moment Bencic closed out that 6-0 second set, the Eala to Gauff blockbuster they'd bet on stopped existing. The diaspora demand that drove the original 30-minute sellout did not carry over to the next round. It evaporated. Filipino fans who'd bought in specifically to watch Eala had no reason to show up for a Bencic-Gauff quarterfinal. Thousands of ticket holders, original buyers and brokers sitting on hoarded inventory alike, tried to offload their seats all at once on August 10th. Secondary market prices did not just soften, they collapsed below face value, and that is the moment that made it to broadcast. On August 12th, when Bencic actually walked out to face Gauff, The result of that speculative failure was sitting right there in the stands. Pockets of empty seats unsold inventory brokers could not clear in time, all captured on international television during a quarterfinal featuring the world number 4. Tennis Canada had technically sold out the primary market, the optics said otherwise. There's a smaller detail buried in all this that tells you just how far the Eala effect reached before it collapsed. Midweek, Sobeys Stadium's food concessions added chicken adobo to the menu specifically because of the volume of Filipino fans attending. Carl Hale said he'd never heard of a tournament adjusting its food offering mid-event because of a single player before. That's not atmosphere. That's a venue restructuring its commercial operations around one athlete's fan base, the same fan base whose sudden absence is what left quarterfinal seats empty 5 days later. So who's actually responsible for the empty seats headline? Tennis Canada points to total event attendance, over 504,000 fans across the 12-day tournament, and calls the whole thing a success, arguing the vacancies were a secondary market inefficiency, not a lack of interest in the sport. The resellers who got burned see it differently. They call it a standard high-risk arbitrage play, arguing that betting on a player's tournament run always carries this exact risk, and Eala's early exit was simply the downside they'd already accepted going in. Purist tennis fans see a third angle entirely. They argue it was the scalpers hoarding quarterfinal inventory in the first place that priced out the genuine fans who would have filled those seats regardless of who was playing. What we do know is that this incident is landing right in the middle of active regulatory scrutiny. Ontario authorities were already investigating secondary ticketing platforms over cancellations, speculative listings, and price inflation at major Toronto sporting events well before this quarterfinal ever aired. Eala, for her part, left Toronto without dwelling on the brokers or the empty seats. Her read on the loss was direct. Bencic put her in tough situations, and Bencic played well. She called it a good week overall and said she's grateful for the debut. She's now bound for Cincinnati, then the US Open, carrying the exact commercial pull that just collapsed a speculative ticket market in under 48 hours, which leaves one question hanging over Sobeys Stadium that nobody in this story has actually answered. If one player's early exit can crater a quarterfinal resale market this fast, what happens the next time a broker bets on her going all the way?